For more than 100 years, the Statue of Liberty has stood as a symbol of opportunity, reaching out to people in search of a new life in the United States. But even in this nation of immigrants, successive waves of people arriving on U.S. shores have not found a welcome.
In the early 1840s, it was about the Irish. Then in the 1880s, it was about the Chinese. Then in 1924, the country established its first national origin quota system.
Now most immigrants to the United States come from Latin America. The government projects that minorities in the United States will outnumber non-Hispanic white Americans, traditionally the Republican Party's strongest supporters, in just 30 years.
The number of people trying to build a new life in the United States and willing to live here illegally has surged in recent decades. So too has the cost of providing them with social services, intensifying the debate over whether or not the undocumented should be allowed to become citizens.
A Republican president, Ronald Reagan, saw the reality of a changing country. He shepherded the last major immigration reform in 1986, which gave legal status to some 3 million undocumented immigrants already in the country. But promises to tighten border security and crack down on employers hiring undocumented immigrants didn't happen. And in the 2 decades that followed, the number of people entering the country illegally increased to 12 million. There were further attempts to reform the system in 2004 and 2007 under another Republican president, George W. Bush.
That you cannot fully enforce the border so long as people are trying to sneak in this country to do jobs Americans aren't doing.
He was stopped by his party's more conservative wing. That pushed Republican presidential candidates further to the right on immigration, but their positions hurt them. In the 2008 presidential election, President Obama got 70% of the Hispanic vote.
Now is the time to find a better way.
While he was criticized for not doing enough on immigration in his first term, his re-election may be changing the political equation.
All of a sudden, Republicans noticed that there were a ton of brown people in the country, and that, contrary to what their pollsters were telling them, they actually show up to vote.
Now Republicans and Democrats may both recognize the voting power of so-called minority groups who will one day be the majority in the United States. Kristen, Saloomey, Al Jazeera, New York.